Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Believe me when I say that I tried my very best to do a proper HDR tech review for this game, but it's not that simple because as soon you just stand around for 2 seconds to change some HDR settings what we have in the game, I got killed and I respawned somewhere else. That means doing a proper side-by-side comparison was not very easy. And before we now talking about all the settings what we have in the game, let me make one thing very clear. The HDR presentation, the HDR implementation in this game is actually really good. Considering it's a Ubisoft game, it's actually pretty good. But as always, first things first, I tested the game on the PlayStation 5. I was not able to compare HDR on the PC or the Xbox. So at this very moment, I can just assume or hope that the HDR implementation on the PC and the Xbox is the same as on the PlayStation 5. And as always, we're starting with the HDR system level calibration on the PlayStation 5, which in this case is not supported by the game. So let's move on and let's take a closer look on the HDR settings or the picture settings what we have in the game. So the first setting what we have is brightness, then we have contrast, we have also the HDR maximum peak brightness, and we have also the HDR brightness for user interface elements. And we're starting with the HDR brightness setting for user interface elements on the screen, and you can change this setting as you like it because it's really just affecting HUD symbols or user interface elements on the screen. The next setting what we have in the game is one of the most important HDR settings, the HDR peak brightness setting. You must change this setting, the value, to match the maximum peak brightness capability of your screen, TV or monitor. And if you don't know the maximum peak brightness capability of your screen, then just visit the website rthings.com because they're testing a lot of screens, TV or monitors, and maybe you're lucky and your screen was tested as well. And if you still don't know what is the maximum peak brightness capability of your screen, then increase the maximum peak brightness setting at least to 1000 or even further, because it is much better to have some clipping and specular highlights than a too low maximum peak brightness. The absolute maximum peak brightness in specular highlights is limited to 3000 nits, which is in my opinion more than enough even for the latest TVs and screens. And what I also found that the HDR maximum peak brightness setting in the game is actually spot on. If you like to have 1500 nits, you get 1500 nits. If you like to have 1400 nits, you get 1400 nits. And now let's talk about the HDR black level floor in this game without changing the brightness setting and contrast setting. All what I have done is I actually increased the HDR maximum brightness setting to 1000 nits to match my LG G2. And as you can see with the standard factory setting, we have actually a pretty good HDR black level floor. So when it is needed, we actually reaching 0 nits. That means there is right now in regards of the contrast or brightness setting, no need to change anything. But of course, if you like to change the contrast setting, then I have just one recommendation. Do not decrease this value below 15 because 15 is actually pretty much on the edge, and as soon you decrease this even further, you will start washing out or actually starting to raise the HDR black level floor. And if you like to increase the contrast setting, then just go for it, because what I found is between setting 15 and 20 there's not much of a difference. All what you get is a slightly darker picture. And when we're now moving on to the brightness setting, the standard factory setting is 10, and what I found is that I haven't had any problems to play this game with the standard factory setting on my LG G2 with HGIG enabled. I found it very, very bright actually, and there was no need to increase this setting. And if you like to increase the brightness setting, then just keep one thing in mind, because I found that if you do so, you also lift up the HDR black level floor slightly. That's why my recommendation is that if you increase the brightness setting, let's say to 15 or even 20, I would also increase the contrast setting to, let's say, 18 or even further. But I found 20 is actually a little bit too much. 18 is actually the maximum value I would recommend in terms of the contrast setting. But again, keep in mind, as soon you increase brightness, I would also recommend to increase the contrast. Okay, my friends, so let me know in the comment section, how do you like this game, and especially how do you like the HDR implementation? So again, I'm actually very surprised. I really like the visual presentation in this game. It's just awesome actually. It looks absolutely fantastic on my LG G2 or the S95C. So let me know again what you think about the game, and also let me know if there's any difference in regards of the PC version or Xbox version, because again, I was just able to test the PlayStation 5 version. Thank you very much for watching me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.